My name is Cheryl, and I have a story to share. It all began when I was about 6 or 7 years old, when my parents split up. My dad, Harold, couldn't handle things anymore. My mom, Isabella, had been on his case for years, always nagging him about not making enough money and putting him down. I remember one day when Dad came home, so happy because he got a promotion at work. He had the biggest smile, feeling proud of himself for once. But Mom just looked at him and said, "That's it? I thought you had finally found a real job." I watched the joy drain from his face, like watching a balloon slowly deflate. Not long after that, Dad left. Now that I'm older, I understand why. But back then, it felt like my whole world was crumbling. Mom saw his leaving as an opportunity. She quickly figured out how to use the poor single mother story to her advantage. She'd go to work and act all sad in front of her boss. "I'm so sorry I'm late again, Mr. Frank," she'd say, wiping fake tears. Cheryl was sick, and I had no one to help. Mr. Frank would pat her hand and tell her not to worry, while I was perfectly fine at home, watching cartoons while Mom spent hours on her hair and makeup. Family gatherings were the worst. Mom would take center stage, dramatically telling everyone how Dad abandoned us and left us with nothing. I'd squirm in my seat, knowing it wasn't true, but I never dared to speak up. Even at that age, I knew better than to make Mom look bad in public. What nobody knew was that Dad was sending money every month. Child support, he called it. Whenever those checks came, Mom would wave them in my face. "Look at this, Cheryl. Your father thinks this tiny amount is enough to raise a child. Pathetic." I didn't know how much it was supposed to be, only that it made her angry. And when Mom was angry, my life got a lot harder. As I got older, I began to notice things. The way Mom would sometimes look at me, her eyes narrowing as if she saw something she didn't like. Later, I realized it was because I looked too much like Dad, and those memories weren't happy for her. But she kept me around because I was useful. The image of a struggling single mom with her brave little girl was too good to resist. It got her sympathy, special treatment, and even some government help. When I was about 10, everything changed again. Mom met Jack, rich, successful Jack. Suddenly, being a struggling single mom wasn't appealing anymore. She had a new role to play, the devoted wife of a successful businessman, and I didn't fit into that picture anymore. It started small. Mom would forget to wash my clothes, so I had nothing clean to wear to school. I'd show up in wrinkled, stained clothes, embarrassed as the other kids whispered and pointed. Then, there was the food situation. Mom would make fancy meals for her and Jack, filling the house with delicious smells, but when I came to the table, she'd say, "Oh, Cheryl, I'm sorry, I didn't make enough for 3. Why don't you make yourself a sandwich?" Things got worse when Mom announced she was pregnant. Jack was thrilled, and Mom made the most of it. "The doctor says I need lots of rest," she'd tell me lying on the couch. "Be a dear and tidy up the house, won't you?" I spent my afternoons cleaning while Mom took naps or chatted with friends on the phone. When Jack came home, she'd slowly get up, holding her barely there baby bump. "Oh, honey, I'm so tired," she'd say. "Growing a baby is hard work." Jack would rush over, worried, and I'd be ordered to bring my mother some water. One night, as I lay in bed listening to Mom and Jack excitedly talk about nursery designs, something inside me snapped. I couldn't handle it anymore. With shaky hands, I picked up my phone and did something I had never dared to do before. I called my dad and told him everything: the neglect, the mind games, the constant feeling of being unwanted. Dad listened quietly, and when I finally stopped talking, there was a long silence. Then he said, "Pack your bags. I'm coming to get you." His voice was firm, and I could hear the seriousness in it. The next morning, I got up early, my heart pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. I had packed my bags the night before, too anxious to sleep. As I dragged my suitcase down the stairs, I heard Mom's voice coming from the kitchen. "Going somewhere, Cheryl?" she asked. I froze, expecting a fight, but when I turned around, I saw her leaning against the doorway with a strange smile on her face. She actually looked relieved. "I'm going to live with Dad," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. To my surprise, Mom's smile grew even wider. Well, it's about time, she said, almost cheerful. Jack and I could use the extra space for the baby. Her words hit me like a slap in the face. Before I could say anything, I heard a car horn outside. Dad was here. Mom walked me to the door, her unsettling smile still on her face. Have a good life, Cheryl, she said, almost pushing me out the door. As I walked to Dad's car, I glanced back. Mom was standing in the doorway, actually happy, waving goodbye. It was the happiest I'd seen her in years, and it was because I was leaving. Dad's apartment was small, but it felt more like home than anywhere I had lived in a long time. We didn't stay there for long. Over the next few months, I watched in amazement as Dad's business took off. Within a year, we were looking at houses in the best neighborhoods in the city. The house we bought was incredible. 2 stories of modern design, with huge windows and a backyard that looked like something out of a magazine. My room was bigger than our entire old apartment. Dad worked long hours managing his now successful business, and I put my energy into turning our big house into a real home. I learned to cook, experimenting with different recipes until I could make fancy meals just like Mom used to for Jack. I kept the house spotless, managing everything so Dad could focus on work. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a purpose, and I was happy. Dad noticed too. He'd come home after a long day, smell the dinner cooking, and smile. "You've made this place wonderful, Cheryl," he'd say, and those words meant the world to me. Things were finally looking up, and I started to forget about the life I had left behind. But then, out of nowhere, Mom reached out. It was a short, cold email. "Your half-brother Brian was born," it said, followed by a picture of a baby wrapped in blue. No congratulations or well wishes, just a reminder that she had moved on without me. I stared at that email for a long time before finally deleting it. I didn't need her approval anymore. I had my own life now. As the years went by, Dad's business grew even more, and we moved again, this time to an even bigger house with a beautiful garden. I was in high school by then, doing well in my classes and even making a few friends. I kept busy with school, helping Dad, and taking care of the house. I had built a new life, one where I felt safe and loved. I thought I had left the past behind for good. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs. Just when I thought I was free of Mom's influence, she showed up at my school. I was in the middle of history class when the office called me over the intercom. "Cheryl, please come to the office. Your mother is here to see you." My heart sank. I hadn't seen her in years, and now she was here, unannounced. I walked to the office, my stomach in knots, and there she was, sitting in one of the chairs, looking as polished as ever. "Cheryl," she said, standing up and smiling like we were old friends. I didn't say anything. I just stared at her, waiting for an explanation. "I thought it was time we talked," she continued, her voice overly sweet. "I miss you, sweetheart." I didn't know what to say. All the old anger and hurt came rushing back. "Why are you here, Mom?" I finally managed to ask, my voice trembling. She sighed, her smile faltering just a bit. "I want us to be a family again," she said. "Brian deserves to know his sister." I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, confusion. Part of me wanted to yell at her, to tell her she had no right to come back into my life after everything she had done. But another part of me, a smaller, more vulnerable part, wanted to believe her. Wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, she had changed. "I don't know, Mom," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I have a life now, a good life. I don't think I need you in it." Her face hardened for just a moment before she forced a smile back on. "I understand," she said, her voice tight. "But think about it, okay? For Brian's sake." She handed me a piece of paper with her phone number on it and then left, just like that. I stood there, staring at the paper, feeling more lost than I had in years. That night, I told Dad about what had happened. He listened quietly, his face unreadable. When I was done, he sighed. "It's up to you, Cheryl," he said. "You don't owe her anything, but if you want to give her a chance, I'll support you." I nodded, but I still didn't know what to do. I ended up shoving the paper into the back of my desk drawer, trying to forget about it. Weeks went by, and I tried to put the encounter out of my mind, but it was like a splinter, always there, nagging at me. Finally, I decided to call her, not because I wanted to, but because I needed closure. I needed to know if she had really changed, or if she was still the same person who had pushed me out of her life without a second thought. We met at a small cafe in town. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table with 2 cups of coffee. "Cheryl," she said, smiling brightly as I sat down. I didn't smile back. "Why now, Mom?" I asked, cutting straight to the point. Her smile faltered and she looked down at her coffee. "I made mistakes," she said quietly. "I know that. But I want to make things right. For you, for Brian, for all of us." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that she had finally realized what she had done and wanted to fix it. But there was a part of me that couldn't forget all the years of neglect, all the times she had made me feel worthless. "I'll think about it," I said finally, standing up. She looked up at me, her eyes hopeful. "Thank you, Cheryl," she said. I nodded and walked out, not sure how I felt. In the end, I decided to keep my distance. I didn't cut her out completely, but I didn't let her back in fully either. I kept our conversations short and our meetings rare. I had built a life without her, and I wasn't ready to let her tear it apart again. Maybe one day things would be different, but for now I was content with the way things were. And so, life went on. I graduated from high school, got into a good college, and moved out on my own. Dad was there for me every step of the way, cheering me on, supporting me, loving me. I had everything I needed, and for that, I was grateful. As for Mom, she remained on the edges of my life, a distant figure that I couldn't quite bring myself to let go of completely. Maybe one day, I'd be ready to forgive her. Maybe one day, we'd be a family again. But for now, I was happy with the family I had. With Dad, with the life we had built together. And that was enough.